Welcome to the laws of cooking on Shabbat. This will be part 20 of the class. Today's topic, not moving cooked food. We saw in the previous halachot that if a person went ahead and he cooked a pot of food on Shabbat itself, we explained you are not allowed to eat it. The question Rav David Yosef Shlita wants to address in the Sefer Halakha Birura, what about moving that food that was cooked on Shabbat? Can you even move it? Tavshil shenitbashel b'Shabbat. If you had a food which was cooked on Shabbat, she'asur le'echlo b'Shabbat, it is forbidden for you to eat it on Shabbat. Nechshav le'muktzeh machmat gufo. It's considered to be muktzeh because of itself. Now, as we're going to do the review in English, we're going to see that there's different types of level of muktzeh. Now, Rabotai, you know something? Let me just show you over here. Here. This right here. What is muktzeh machmat gufo? It means an item that has no permitted use on Shabbat. It becomes muktzeh because of the item itself, like stones, raw inedible food, or money. Now, Rabotai, to better understand the word muktzeh, okay. Let me take the Hebrew word. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. I'm just going to separate the word. I want to show you something. This is really one word. This whole word is really one word, right? We know it's called muktzeh. Muktzeh basically means something which is set aside or off limits. I want to show you something else. Rabotai, we know the word katzeh, the end. That's what it really means. Muktzeh comes from the word katzeh, end. What is this coming to teach me? Whenever something toward the end, meaning it's set aside, I want nothing to do with it. For example, I'm just right now defining the word muktzeh for you. Let's take this remote control. Or let's take this mouse. Any one of these items are considered to be muktzeh. What does it mean, muktzeh? It means I want to put it to the far end. Meaning I want to set it aside. Since there's no purpose whatsoever that I can do with this on Shabbat, I'm not using it for Shabbat. What am I going to use? I'm not going to turn it on. Therefore, we're going to tell you in your mind, it's muktzeh. What does that mean, muktzeh? You have set it aside. That's what muktzeh really means. By setting it aside, and how are you going to remember? Because the word katzeh, the end. You put it all the way in the end. You have nothing to do with it. So, muktzeh doesn't necessarily have to be things which are electronic. Muktzeh could be even this cup, right over here. This cup right here. Cup that I drink tea from. How could this be muktzeh? You're going to ask me how. Very simple. If on Erev Shabbat, I say to myself, I don't want to use this cup on Shabbat because it's a regular everyday cup. I want to be able to use another cup. Automatically, I just set it aside. Once you set something aside, automatically you're not allowed to use it on Shabbat. However, you should remember, Rabotai, it's not only setting aside things like electronics or even things like this. You could also set things aside like books or albums, things that you want nothing to do with them on Shabbat. So there's certain things that you are setting it aside because you don't want to use it on Shabbat. But there's certain things that become set aside for you. Money, since there's no purpose, automatically set aside. Rocks, it has no purpose, automatically set aside. Camera, phone, remote control. There's many things. Raw meat, for example. What am I going to do with raw meat? Can you move raw meat? No. Why would I want to move raw meat right now? So what's the purpose of moving raw meat on Shabbat? So these certain things get set aside automatically. So there's muktzeh that I can set it aside, and there's muktzeh which become set aside by themselves. So just remember, Rabota, just remember this concept of muktzeh. It really means set aside. How do we know it's set aside? From the word ketz or katzeh, which means the end. So whenever I'm setting something aside, I'm always putting it towards the end. By the way, you know there's a halakha in the Shulchan Aruch. The Mishnah Berurah brings it down actually. According to the Sephardim, let's say, I don't know, let's say this is a spoon. Again, it's not a spoon, but let's say it's a spoon. Right now I'm sitting on Shabbat. Yeah, let's say this is the table, and I have the spoon like this on Shabbat, like this. There's my spoon, that's it. Now, I don't need to use them. At the moment right now, I'm not eating with the spoon, correct? I'm waiting for everybody to sit down, let's say. I don't need to use the spoon, according to us, just to go ahead and move it from one place to another. Also, you're not allowed to do it. You have to remember, Shabbat has to be very different than any other day. So that's why there's many halachot. We'll see, B'ezrat Hashem, when we get to halachot muktzeh, there's many things on Shabbat that you're not allowed to move, that you're not allowed to touch. For example, one of the things we're going to learn, B'ezrat Hashem B'lineder, that the way you speak on Shabbat should be different than the way you speak during the weekday. The way you walk on Shabbat shouldn't be the way you walk on the weekday. The way you dress on Shabbat shouldn't be the same way you dress on the weekday. Everything has to be different. About that, you want to be able to enjoy the Shabbat. Okay, so let's get to today's class. So we started saying that if you had tavshil shenit bashal b'Shabbat, if you had food that was cooked on Shabbat, she'asur lo chlo b'Shabbat, it is forbidden for you to eat it on Shabbat. Nechshav le'muktzeh machmad gufo. There we go. Now we know what it means. Muktzeh machmad gufo. It's a muktzeh set aside. Why is this food set aside? Because of it itself. Why? Because you did a prohibited act. You did a prohibited labor on Shabbat. You cooked the food on Shabbat. Automatically, the whole food itself becomes asur, and it becomes set aside. Ve'asur, listen to what Rav David Yosef Shlita says. Ve'asur bitiltul b'Shabbat. You're not allowed to move it on Shabbat. Rabotai, you're not allowed to move it on Shabbat. So you might think, I'm sitting here, I'm keeping Shabbat. Not you, Rabot. You didn't cook on Shabbat. You're a big Ben Torah. You learn Torah. You're a religious girl. But somebody else cooked it. But so what do you think? You didn't cook it, so you go, you take the plate, you move it from point A to point B. Or she tells you, okay, we're not allowed to eat it, bring it back to me. Your mom says, bring it back to me, the food, if you don't want to eat it. You can't move it. It's asur bitiltul b'Shabbat. Now the next two words are very important. The next two concepts are very important. Afilu l'toruch gufo o mikomo. So like I was saying before, there are different types of muktzeh. We'll see, Rabotai, you could have muktzeh, something which is kli shemalachto li'isur. You could have something which is muktzeh, like a utensil where its labor is forbidden. For example, a hammer. A hammer, Rabotai, let's just say now this is a hammer. Now, it was a spoon, now it's a hammer. Let's say this is a hammer. What can this hammer do for me on a regular weekday? It can bang nails, correct? It does all the forbidden work in the house. It can build a whole home for me. But it's asur to do on Shabbat. So this hammer is called kli shemalachto le'isur. It's a utensil where its whole function is to do prohibited things. If I'm going to use it on Shabbat, of course. So therefore, Rabotai, watch this, Rabotai. What happens if I wanted to use this hammer on Shabbat? Can I move it? Just think for a second. Can I move this hammer on Shabbat? So the answer is going to be, depends for what. And this is what I want to show you right now. If it's for the sake, is it for the need, for it, the goof, the body itself for the hammer, or if it's for the place itself, then we're going to allow you to move it. However, when it comes to food, these laws don't apply. Food is so strict that you can't move it at all. This food that was cooked on Shabbat, of course. So watch this, Rabotai. This hammer is muktzeh. It's set aside. I'm not planning to use it on Shabbat. However, it's klishi malachto le'isur. It's a utensil where its function is to do prohibited things on Shabbat. Therefore, if I want to move this hammer on Shabbat, there are ways I can move it. Number one, let's say your wife brought you walnuts before Shabbat. You want to break it. You have nothing to break it with. You take the hammer. Boop, 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 boop. You're allowed to break it. Why? L'torach gufa, if I'm using the hammer for its sake, if I'm using the hammer itself to break a walnut, because that's what hammers do, they break things or they build things. Or if I'm breaking the walnut, if as long as I'm using the hammer itself, then you're allowed to move it on Shabbat. So if the hammer, let's say, is on the table, not on the table, let's say in the closet, let's say it's like this, I could go to the closet, take it, bring it to my table, break the walnut, eat the walnut. When I'm finished, I can move this hammer. However, when am I going to be able, because now that's it, I'm done. When am I going to be able to move this hammer again? Let's say if this is the table, and this is the hammer. Whoops. This is the hammer. When am I going to be able to move it? Let's say right now, I want to go ahead and I want to read a book. And I want to place it right over here. This is in my way. So the Chacham are going to allow you to go ahead and move something which is muktzeh for that place itself. It's called l'torach makom, right over here. Right over here, Rabotai. Right here. The first concept was l'torach gufo. The second one is l'torach makom, right over here. That I could even move a hammer on Shabbat if I need the place. So you see how it works, Rabotai. You could have muktzeh, different types of muktzeh, and still there are times when I will allow you to move it, not I. The Chacham will allow you to move it, and times when we're going to tell you you're not allowed to move it. You always have to find a reason to move it. I'll give you another example. Let's say you had a toolbox. All right, hammer, I don't know, knife, nails, whatever it might be, screws, whatever it might be over there. You had a toolbox. You tell your son before Shabbat, go put the toolbox inside the closet, storage room. You know how the kids are. You tell them one thing, they do another thing. So they go, they put it on the couch. You come on Shabbat. You look, why is the toolbox here? How am I going to sit? So you have to ask yourself, is this toolbox muktzeh now? 100% is muktzeh. Can I move it? The answer is going to be in these two questions right over here, in these two concepts right over here. You know something? Let me highlight this. In these two concepts, do I need it for itself? In this case, I don't need the toolbox right now. I'm not eating nothing, right? But I need it for the place. So therefore, you're going to be allowed to go ahead and take the toolbox, pick it up. Once the rabbis give you permission to take it, you're allowed to go ahead and bring it to anywhere you want. Put it to the safest place. I don't care where you're going to put it. Why? Because you need the makomo, you need the couch to sit on. Now, Rabotai, why was that so important to know? I wrote 1 second over here, also 1 second. Here, right over here, Rabotai. Watch this. Normally, some types of muktzeh may be moved if needed for torach gufo, what I just explained, using the object itself, like moving a hammer to crack nuts, or torach makomo, needing the space where the object lies. If I need the space, I could move something which is muktzeh. But Rabotai, what the case we're dealing in, it's so severe. It's not a cliche melachto Easter. It's not a utensil where its function is to do something which is prohibited. Then we're going to tell you if you need to crack a nut, you're allowed to move it, or if you need the space, you're allowed to move it. We're not speaking about that. That's muktzeh, but it's a different type of muktzeh. Over here, we're dealing with muktzeh machmad gufo. It's a little bit higher. Muktzeh machmad gufo is the worst level of muktzeh. Rocks, money, things that have no use whatsoever. What do you call these? Branches from the tree that fell off before Shabbat. Rabotai, when it's a muktzeh machmad gufo, you don't have all these leniencies. If you want to use it for its sake, or if you want to use it because you need a place, you can't use it. So it comes out of here, watch this, Rabotai. When Rav David Yosef Shlita told me, if I went ahead and I cooked a food on Shabbat, chas v'shulum, that was one time saying, I was with my kids one time saying chas v'shulim. They said, no, it's chas v'shulaces. Okay. Anyway, Rabotai. Did he die? Okay. Comes over here. Rav David Yosef comes and he says, what happens if a person went ahead and he cooked on Shabbat? We say, we know the food is also to be eaten. You're not allowed to eat the food. But then he says it's considered to be on the level of muktzeh machmad gufo. The whole item itself becomes asur to move. It's muktzeh because of the item itself. Now he says, v'asur b'tiltul b'Shabbat. Now you're not allowed to move it on Shabbat. Afilu even l'tor gufo mikomo. The highest level of muktzeh, Rabotai. That means to say, because of this last sentence, what Rav David Yosef said, afilu l'tor gufo mikomo. At least before I could have made something up. I could have said I needed a pot of food because I wanted to put my book on top and I wanted to read. I'm using the object, no? Or I could have told you, listen, somebody put the food on the table and it's in the middle of the table, it's bothering me, or we need the space of the table. Remove it. When it comes to food which was cooked on Shabbat, you don't have that leniency. Do you see, Rabotai, how severe this is? How many of us would know this halakha that food which was cooked on Shabbat, okay, eat, I know that you're not allowed to eat it. But to move it, yes, moving it is even asur. And if you did do it, Rabotai, you did break Shabbat on a rabbinical level. Okay, let's do a small review. This halakha is teaching about food that was cooked on Shabbat itself. The case, if someone cooked food on Shabbat, the food is forbidden to be eaten on Shabbat. Its status as muktzah, since it cannot be eaten on Shabbat, the food is given the status of muktzah machmad gufo, which is what? Means an item that has no permitted use on Shabbat, like stones, raw inedible food, or money. Once it is muktzah, it is not only forbidden to eat, but also forbidden to move the food. No exceptions, Rabotai. Normally, sometimes the muktzah may be moved if needed for torah gufo, using the object itself, like moving a hammer to crack nuts, or tzorach mekomo, needing the space where the object lies. But here the halakha says food cooked on Shabbat is completely muktzeh, and you cannot move it even for those reasons of l'torach gufo and l'torach mekomo. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.